Welcome to our world. Won't you come on in? Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Perfect world. Back at it again.
Here we are. Yep. Hold on.
No,
Do you hate it because every time you're going to have to cut this out?
I just want to be happy.
Go ahead. That's too much to ask.
I know. Well,
And you're on.
okay, here's the thing.
Let me hand you the baton.
We should have a baton so that you know when not to speak.
Yep.
That would be very helpful.
Yep. Go ahead.
Today,
Twirl that baton.
I would like to talk about how there is a severe
Shortage. That's
short.
what-
Yeah, there's a
We'll do an
severe-
episode where we do it like that.
There's
Every other word.
No, shortage is great.
Okay.
There's a severe shortage of mentally stable people in the world. And I don't mean this in a mean way. I mean this in a very real
I mean it
way.
Yes, I mean it in a brutally honest way.
Including
Don't count me.
members of my own.
Okay. So
No,
go ahead. This is
okay.
your
And I don't, when I'm about to say some of the stuff that I'm going to say,
Mhm.
it is not directed at any one person or any one group of people,
Mhm.
or it's not, it's just a general observation of
Right.
the human condition currently.
Right.
Okay. Because I feel like when you were growing up, and we've talked about this a little bit, there wasn't really a huge concern for mental health. Am I wrong? On a scale of 1 to 10, when you
put
were
it
a
this way.
child, how much
Well-
did you care about your mental health?
It's not even something I thought about.
Exactly.
It's so, but when you say that there was not a huge concern about it, I don't know if I wouldn't put it exactly that way, because it sounds like, oh, people didn't care about that. I in my take on it is, it wasn't the first go-to thing
Okay.
that people thought of. And maybe it's a terminology thing where if somebody was depressed, they were depressed. It didn't mean that they had mental health issues, or you know what I mean?
Maybe. But so I guess a follow-up question would be, what sort of healthy coping mechanisms did you learn as a child?
Slapping someone silly.
Okay.
If you do,
perfect.
because if somebody's like losing it, you just slap them across the face multiple times as hard as you can, and they're usually okay then. They usually calm down and they're fine. Next, the straitjacket.
You know, one thing that I've realized in listening back to these episodes, because for those of you that maybe aren't aware or just don't recall me saying this, we record these podcasts. So I'm in the conversation, obviously.
Right.
And then I go through and I edit each of the podcasts. So I'm listening to it a second time. And I then, to get our views up on social platforms. I'm just kidding. That's
You
not why I do it.
re-record it
I just-
yourself
I just
without
want to
me.
make sure that it actually sounds good and whatever. And I think, okay, side quest here. I think we are entertaining.
Most of the time when you listen to what you just
I
said,
laugh.
you're like, this is really good.
you know
we
what's-
nailed it.
You know what's really funny is because I was listening to one this morning. Oh, our one about price gouging, because I'm like
Mhm.
30 episodes behind on the podcast thing,
Yeah.
because I listen to it. I'm a part of it, and then I listen to it once, so I wait a little while before I re-listen to them or whatever.
Right.
And it's so funny, and like this is obviously a tangent here, but it's so funny listening to it back. I don't know if you do this, but when I listen to it back, I always like, if you're talking, you're saying something in my head, I respond to what you're saying, and then a second later, me on the podcast says
response.
exactly what I'm thinking.
So would it be more concerning if you responded differently than what you?
I mean,
said on
sometimes I do, but
podcast?
very rarely.
See, I don't, since I got a new phone, since I got an Android phone a while ago,
Yeah.
I haven't. Well, it's not just a new phone. I haven't been driving much. I haven't been traveling a lot,
Mhm.
so I haven't had a reason to listen to podcasts
Yeah.
typically. So I haven't been listening to them as much, and I haven't listened to ours as much. Like I used to when driving over the rental house, that's when I would listen to them all the time. If I was driving over there by myself, driving back, I would always listen to one or two of those and then a few others. None of them are as good,
I know.
but I would listen to others just for equal time.
So that's not even what I was going to say when I started this. What I was going to say was, as I'm listening, there are some times when I sound really annoyed.
Oh,
and
much of the time.
I get a little mean
Oh,
sometimes.
that
So I would
actually
like
makes
to
me feel so
acknowledge
good
it.
that at least you at least
The power
I would
of
be more
hindsight.
concerned. I would be more concerned if you didn't, when you listen to it, if you didn't realize that, because
Okay.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
Let's calm down. I'm not a huge jerk over here,
I
but
didn't say
sometimes
you
I'm
were.
like, ooh, you were a bit aggressive there.
In all fairness, I think it's hereditary because in the past I have listened to myself on a recording from a camera or whatever, talking to someone, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah, you
boy,
sound
I
mean.
sounded really mean there.
You do.
I mean, like sharp, quick wit.
That's different.
There's a fine line between that and mean.
Sure.
Where do you cross the boundary?
Anyway.
And like I said, here's the other thing.
Okay.
If it's funny enough, all bets are off. Anything's okay. You're allowed to actually kill someone if it's funny.
You're not.
If it's funny. If it's funny. Like if you were to push somebody in front of a car, but you have it on YouTube, it'll get a lot of views and people will laugh right before they're horrified.
Okay.
And then it's okay.
I'm trying so hard not to freak out right now because I just said that I sounded aggressive, but you are really, really pushing it, okay? So let's just reel it all back in before I get angry, and this is a future episode where I'm like, gosh, you sounded mean.
You want me not to make you mad?
I think, no, I'm actually using right now a coping mechanism to tie us back to our
fair enough.
Our actual topic. So did you, and obviously at the time, you would not have been told this is a coping mechanism for you, for when you're in a certain situation, if you're feeling upset or whatever. Like, what were you taught as a child when you were upset? If you were sad, mad, frustrated, what were you taught? Go ahead. Yeah.
Shut up or I'll give you something to cry for.
Yeah.
That was one.
Same.
And that was it. That was the only thing. That was it.
Because here's the thing. I feel like as with everything we talk about and everything that frustrates me in life, there's a spectrum of things like this, of reactions in certain situations. And I feel like that is one end of the spectrum. It's like pretty much telling you what you're upset about is not valid, your feelings don't matter, and you need to get over this and grow up.
I didn't.
That's one.
I don't take it that way. No, I don't take it that way.
But here's the thing: you don't take it that way because you're a product of your environment.
But I know.
That's all
I'm
I'm
giving you my perspective, right?
Well, why
your perspective,
would you?
my perspective.
But here's the thing: if you admitted that was that end of the spectrum, then that would be admitting a lot of things about yourself and about your upbringing.
There are things from my childhood or whatever that I could say, I think that was horrible. I think that was a mistake. This isn't one of them. Okay. You're saying, say it again, what you said when somebody says, just shut up. Like you're taking it as it is, so I'm there or someone's there basically with a cry for help and we're just going to ignore you. I'm taking it as someone's having a tantrum and they're not learning to deal with it themselves, right?
Okay, but
so I think there's a somewhere between, and I think there are cases when either thing is valid.
That's what
I'm saying. There are times when sit down and shut up, or shut up and I'll give you something to cry for, are completely valid responses. Every time someone's screaming and crying or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's okay.
You're taking this as like a baby, a toddler. Obviously, you
could be.
Teach them differently. I'm talking about when you were like 10.
Well, there are 10-year-olds who act like toddlers.
That's not what we're talking about right now. I'm talking about normal.
That's what I just said.
Well-raised, well-behaved children.
Well, if you're not talking about someone basically having a tantrum, someone that's just upset, that's different. I agree with that.
No, oh God, I feel like we're not talking about the same thing right now. And I'm about to say something to, again, reel us back in here that you're not going to like. And I don't mean this in a negative, like, I think you and Mother
Uh-huh.
had
We're
the
the
best
worst
intentions
parents.
as parents.
Okay.
And I think
Well,
you were
I
wonderful parents in some aspects. And
most parents have I
I
think
know,
do
that's
have
what
the
I'm
best
saying. I
most.
think so I'm not trying to,
Right.
I'm just speaking for myself and
Right.
saying my experience. Maybe Caitlin and Eric feel differently and that's their experience. For me, I mean, you treated me like that at times where whatever, you thought what I was upset about, what didn't matter, and that I needed to grow up.
Right.
Sure, sometimes you were probably right. But what I do know is that neither of you taught me any kind of coping mechanisms for when I was upset.
Mhm.
When I was upset, it was, pretty much go deal with it and then come back when you're a happy person again. It's like,
Mhm.
well, what do you mean go deal with it? What does that mean? How do I deal with it? I just sit in my feelings. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so for me, what my coping things became was writing a lot
What?
and journaling and stuff
Mhm.
because I, especially, as Caitlin and Eric, I'm the youngest, so they leave the house. I'm by myself and all this stuff. For me, it was not having someone to talk, and I'm not talking about you and Mom. I'm
Mhm.
talking about having Eric or Caitlin there, not having someone to talk to that could relate.
Mhm.
So literally just going to my journal. I mean, I have
See,
6 full
well,
journals
no,
or
I
something.
get that, but I'm thinking back now to when I was a kid. It was a very long time ago.
I know,
But
hard
no,
to
I'm trying to
remember.
remember. And when something happened, I was really upset or whatever. I never remember a time I never had, and I'm trying to think of a more modern equivalent of the typical perfect family with the perfect father, for instance, or
It
mother
doesn't
for that matter,
exist.
that would come and have a talk and explain things. Like you said, teach coping mechanisms, something like that. I never had that experience, which I agree. I don't think it does exist. I don't think most people have that. So my thing would be, from what I remember, go into my room, laying, crying, and then basically thinking, getting mad, getting
Going through the stages of grief, pretty much.
yeah, pretty much that. There was never, I don't know. I
Okay.
just that was it, and I
And do you think that that was healthy and that is healthy?
personally, do I think for the most part, yes.
And I disagree. So let's talk about why you think that's a healthy way to deal with things.
Because I'm not saying, okay, if I went to someone and I literally needed help or had questions or something like that, that's different. But I personally don't remember ever doing that. But if
Are
I'm
you talking
just
about therapy? Because we're not even there yet.
no, I'm not. I'm talking about someone as in a parent or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, or it could be a brother or sister, I guess, whatever, or even a friend. I never felt. I mean, put it this way: from my standpoint, none of this could have been awful because I never felt like I needed help. I never felt like I needed to go talk to a therapist or man, I'm gonna go kill myself or
Yeah, but
anything like that. I never ever felt like that. Was I really depressed at times? I mean, I don't even know if I'd say really depressed. That even sounds like more was I the typical teenager type, frustrated, depressed, something like that? Yeah, absolutely, But I felt like at least when I was growing up, and I felt like we had overall we had a good family and brothers
I'm,
and sisters and
look, I'm not suggesting that not being taught
Mhm.
coping mechanisms means you came from a bad family by any means. That's not the link. I'm not trying to make any link between those two things. So let's make that really clear. But I also think, like I said before, that you feel that way because one, it's what you're used to. And so why would you think there's something wrong with this or weird with this? This is just the way things are. That's
well,
number 1.
okay.
And then number 2 would be why, and I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm talking about anybody
Mhm.
in a situation, like literally anybody in the world right now
Mhm.
that would feel a certain way about their situation is admitting to yourself, and I'm not saying you were, but I'm just saying admitting to yourself that there was something wrong with that
Mhm.
would take a lot of introspection and thinking
Well,
about how you are now based on those experiences. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Well, I guess to me it would be like, and I don't jump in right away.
Yeah,
Let
no,
me,
I won't.
but because I have a feeling, I kind of maybe thinking what your reaction might be. But if somebody came to me now and said, "You're crazy," like you're literally, there's something wrong with you. You're really crazy. Something's not right. Okay, which now in a joking way, maybe they would say that. But my point is, I wouldn't start thinking maybe I am crazy and I just don't know I'm crazy because no one ever mentioned that I might be crazy and I was never, So in other words, if I feel fine, right? If I feel like, okay, like at this point in life, if I feel like, yeah, did I have the typical not great teenage years like pretty much everyone has? Yeah, absolutely. Everything was not perfect the way that I would have wanted it. But and here's the other thing too. It's probably a lot easier to say this stuff when you're 62 than it is when you're 22 or 12 or 32 even, right? So that might have part to do with it too. But did it obviously there were not commercials saying, from BetterHelp or whatever saying call a therapist, you need to talk to somebody, stuff like that. So from that standpoint, it was not kind of in the front of my mind. But at the same time, I don't feel like, boy, I wish that had been available because man, things would have been so much better if that had been available. I don't like to me, I don't think that's the case. Yes, Samantha? You had a second part of what you were saying but it's kind of similar. So anyway.
I think my counter argument to your first point would be schizophrenics don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
You know what No, I'm
but
just
again,
and it's kind of a joke, but it's also like
Mm.
if there were something wrong, would you admit it? Would you even acknowledge it? I don't think a lot of people would.
But to me, when it comes to mental health, the thing that trumps everything is, are you okay? And I don't mean, are you okay as in, well, are you just saying you're okay because you don't want anyone to know you're okay? That's two different things. But if you legit feel okay, then to me, you're okay.
Yeah, but
it'd be like if you said to me, you need to get that leg amputated. And I'm like, my leg's fine. And if you kept saying, no, that leg needs to be amputated.
Okay. But I also think we're talking about okay versus well. If I could think of a different word. Like you can be mentally okay and be floating, but still not actually be mentally well.
In my mind, which maybe that's the problem.
That's the issue.
In my mind, where I'm at with my situation in life, I'm as well as I would expect to be. In other words, no, what I'm saying is here. No
Same.
stuff.
Honestly,
no, as far as like is my life definitely isn't the way that I want it, right? I wish that your mother had not died in 2018, right? And I'm not trying to turn this all dark, but my point is with that having happened and like throwing me into a completely different situation that I did not want to be in, I'm, like psychologically, mentally in as good a place as, like I said, I would expect a typical person to be in a good place. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying like, like, wow,
Okay.
things are great.
Well,
I said this a long time ago. When that happened, okay, at that point, and I'm not saying this for, oh, poor me, but at that point, a good day for me a really good day used to be 100, right? 0 to 100, it was 100.
Stop! You're gonna
now
say
a
something
good day
really
is a 40.
sad.
Now a good.
You're gonna try.
It's on. That's complete honesty, though. I'm being honest with you, with myself, and with all 3 of our listeners. I mean, millions, obviously. But no, seriously, that's that's where I'm at. And I felt that way. Yeah, I try not to. I felt that way, a day after your mother died, a week after your mother died, and I still feel that way. It's not like, well, I'm over that now, and now a good day can really get up to, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit better now with certain things, but it's just not, it'll never be, as good as it could be. And it's no different. It's no different though. It's no different than saying, okay, you can't be physically as good as you were when you were
Okay,
25.
all right, okay. Anyway,
I've just thrown a lot on your plate.
I'm gonna back up to what I was thinking halfway through your little monologue there, which was because you were saying about
Sounds pretty mean.
people. I've said that I monologued at times too, so I'm just calling a spade,
Go ahead.
all right?
Your turn.
Which I hate that saying, and I say it
Yeah.
ironically, but now it's like a part of my vernacular. Okay.
I was thinking that. Vernacular.
I can't wait to listen to this in the future, and as I pause there, hope that I say vernacular
Yeah.
and be thrilled when I
Yes.
do. I think because you said about how it's different in your 60s than when you're 12, than when you're 30 and all that stuff. And I totally agree with that. I think for me, and I'm not going to respond to some of the stuff that you just said because I don't want to cry and I'm trying to keep this like as mentally stable as possible. I think as an introvert and at certain points in my life, being completely by myself, for lack of a better, phrasing or whatever, I have had so much time to be introspective and to really think about things that I like about myself, things that I don't like about myself, things that I would like to change, things I'm good with. And not only just those things specifically, but like where they came from, why I am the way that I am in certain ways. And I think that I am superior. I'm just kidding. No, that's what I was going to say. I think that a lot of people don't take the time to do that. They kind of, when something happens, and it's a lot harder when it's something from your childhood because obviously as you get older, your memory, and I'm not talking about memory loss, but I'm talking about like the stories that you tell yourself about situations, they change, right?
Yeah.
And so it's difficult to really trust your own, memory and thought process of things sometimes. But I think there are very specific moments that I can look back from when not just from when I was like 8 or 10, but from when I was like 22, 23, that are specific moments that I'm like, this is why sometimes I do this.
Oh.
I can literally tie, I can draw you a picture, like a chart right now and show the line
what's that kind of a chart / graph / what do they call it? Like where you have words and then words go to other words and then that word goes to that word and with the lines between, there's a name for that. And it's not wordograph, although that would be a good.
That is now.
It's
that
not
isn't now.
It's
but
like the thoughts.
I also want to point out that I've never been to therapy, and I don't say that as a good thing or a bad thing because I think that there are times in my life when I should have. I think after Mom died, I think I should have for a hot second. I personally do not believe that people that are super proud to have been going to therapy for like 10 years or 5 years or some crazy amount.
Right.
I think that's unhealthy. I think, in my opinion, therapy, I've never been. Therapy is is meant to teach you, like the therapist is there. You're going through whatever you're going through. The therapist is meant to like kind of analyze your situation a little bit and give you coping mechanisms and give you
like how to think about it.
Yes, and how to like deal with it or whatever. And then you're supposed to let the therapist go. This shouldn't be something that like you go visit your therapist like twice a week and you guys just talk about what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
That's just a person. You're just talking to a friend. Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe for someone who has enough disposable income.
No, it's not healthy. I don't think that's healthy.
Well, I don't know if it's not. I don't know if it's if it's automatically not healthy. But basically, to me, the part that's unhealthy is you're basically paying to have a friend, right?
I know,
because I feel like everyone should have at least one person, ideally maybe multiple people that they can. When they're frustrated, when they're I don't know, when it's things like that they can talk to.
In general, I agree. But I think when big life things happen, I think
It's
you should have gone to a therapist when mom died. I think I should have. I think Caitlin and Eric both should have. And and you're shaking your head. You didn't go, so you don't get to say.
I do get to say I
No, you
don't
don't,
think that
because you
I
were
don't
not
think.
well.
Well, then
You
what you're
were not
saying?
well.
Hold on.
And it's been
No.
7 years, and now you're fine. But that's not to say that could not have helped
But
you.
you're saying that's not normal. I'm telling you, anyone that loses a spouse, it's normal for them not to be well for
I
a while.
understand
That's
that, but
all
I'm
I'm saying.
my point is, you don't, if someone, especially someone like that you're obviously extremely close to,
Mhm.
someone like that dies, and very suddenly, like mom did, talking to like me or Uncle
but
Brian about it
I talked to
isn't going to
you.
be.
I talked to.
No, but
I
but
disagree.
but
That's
we
where we
don't
disagree.
have, and that is where we disagree, because we don't have. First of all, we were all experiencing that grief at the same time.
Mhm.
Okay, so you talking to me about whatever is I'm trying to help you out, but I'm also mentally unstable at that point,
but
and I'm freaking out. So
I
that's
feel
the
like
one
talking
thing.
to someone. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought that's all you were
No,
saying.
go ahead.
No, I feel like talking to someone who's completely outside of the situation. To me, it would seem kind of empty because, like, so I'm talking to this person and they never knew your mother. They, all they know is what I'm telling them, and I feel like I don't know. I just wouldn't get the same. I wouldn't get the same thing out of it. I would feel like they were telling me ostensibly what I want to hear, more or less. And I don't know. Maybe mentally, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that in that situation, maybe that's what you need is for somebody to kind of tell you what you want to hear. But like someone had given me a book on grieving that I read half of it.
Yeah, I know. Why would you read the whole thing? You thought you were fine.
No,
What
I
do you
just never.
mean?
I had it in the bathroom and I just never finished it before I moved. I don't know where it is. Actually, I do know where it is now. I could finish it, but it'd
No,
probably
this is
be
the
depressing.
point, though.
But
Like,
just at a higher, sort of backing up a second, the one thing I wanted to say is the whole concept of therapy. My take on it is not that no one ever needs therapy, and every person
when would
should
you
just
need
be able to help
therapy if you
themselves.
didn't need it after mom died? When would you need therapy?
I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying that every person at some point needs
Okay,
therapy.
but-
I'm not
but
saying this
here's-
is not about me.
And that's fine.
What I'm
but
saying, let me finish my thought. My point is to say, I think there's sure there are some people that at some point need therapy. They need to talk to a therapist. That's fine. I feel like the difference between now and like years ago is that now 70% of the population thinks they need therapy. And to me, just to me, that's not healthy. So that's my take on it. There are people that definitely need it, but there are a lot of people that don't need it and will never need it, and there are some in the middle.
I did say that I think there are way too many people that go to therapy right now. And I also think that there are people that should have been in therapy that definitely were not because of that kind of mindset. Because here's what
So
annoys
you're
me.
telling me I should have been in therapy. That's the
After
issue.
mom died, yes, I think you should have gone to therapy. I think because we've already, and again, this was not meant as like a personal attack to you or something, but it like makes me angry how for some reason you think that you have this like superior mental health. You're at this level where you just don't, you're above therapy. You've reached this threshold where you'll be fine. But we've established that you don't have any coping mechanisms already. So how?
Because I don't need them. Because I don't need them.
Yes,
my
you
coping
do.
mechanisms are my coping mechanisms. Okay, I go for a walk.
I'm gonna be sick.
I go for a walk. Sometimes I do some vigorous exercise. Okay, not for very long. I do the vigorous exercise only for a few seconds, maybe. But I don't get extremely violent. I rarely do something like punch a wall or whatever. That's not typically how I cope. Sometimes, but so it's not like I have no coping mechanisms.
No, but there are also things that you do that, as an observer, I can tell you are not.
I'm saying I'm not well. I'm not well.
I'm not saying you're like mentally ill, but I'm saying the way you're talking, it seems like you really believe that you're as mentally healthy as you could be, and I'm telling you right now, you're not.
Is this episode going to end with them putting me in a straitjacket?
This is an intervention.
I feel like I'm at the hospital again, and they won't let me go home.
No, whatever. The only other thing that I want to clarify is that because we had talked about this a little bit, I don't know, we talked about this a couple of times with you don't like that they have a name for everything now, that it's like everything is like you get a diagnosis for anything. Yeah, everything's an ism or whatever.
Yes, or a syndrome or
a couple of years ago, I think I disagreed with you because I was like, okay, we just have a name for things that exist now, and why does that bother you? But now that I've spent a lot of time on the internet, I completely disagree. I think people are like younger generations are so eager to diagnose themselves with something, to be like, well, this is what I am, and this is why I am the way that I am, and this is, I'm weird because of this. It's like, no, you're just weird. You're just weird. You don't have anything wrong with you. You're just weird. And that's okay. But like, just admit that you're a weirdo.
No, that's a good point, though. That's a good point, right? To say you're weird, and that's okay.
It is. I'm not saying anything's wrong with you.
Maybe even just say you're different. You're different than other people. Everyone's different. And it's kind of funny though, because if people think I'm weird or I'm different or whatever, but then they want to give it a name, which groups them in with other people.
Yes.
So it's like that's a problem in itself. It's like, what do you care? Like, everyone's different. Like, like you say, be who you are or whatever. But I feel like people sometimes who are different try to now make their different mold with somebody else's different. So they're not really being like authentic or genuine or whatever.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think what we should do, it'd be really interesting to see the comments that we get on this. My concern, there's like a fine line somewhere in the middle here, right? Where if someone legitimately needs help, you don't want them to not get it because there's a stigma around it. But you also don't want people almost to want it so they can say, I have this, or I did, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the other thing is, all of these like online, like BetterHelp, something like that, they're businesses. So they're going to have commercials, and they're going to try to encourage people to. And like I said, there may be cases where it's good. It's no different than, go get eye surgery. It's going to make your eyes better. Of course, those companies want you to get that. Does it help a lot of people? Yeah, sure. But maybe there are people that really isn't going to help that much, and it's like they just want to get money. So
you're wrong.
I think we need. I think
what we need is for people in the comments that know both of us to clarify which of us is more mentally stable.
Yes, okay.
And it is I.
I'm not going to comment on this.
I'm not saying. Look, if you took me at my worst moment, obviously,
Well, me too. I mean, if you
laying
took
on
me
the
at my
couch
worst
for 3
moment.
months, but as of now, like the person that I am with my coping mechanisms,
you're a much stronger person than you used to be.
Yeah,
you could deadlift a decent amount of weight now.
Well, I don't. Did I tell you? I didn't tell you because I was. What were we? Oh, we were carrying groceries up to my friend's apartment the other day. He lives on the 3rd floor, and
I love when we have a tangent that goes to another tangent.
I've been working out like for like a couple months now. I'm lifting weights constantly, and push-ups are a little rough, but I'm like doing things. Okay, I'm trying to carry. I don't even remember what it was. Like two packs of drinks, and then I had something over my shoulder too. Oh my God! It took me like 10 minutes to get up the steps. And I literally the whole time I was just so annoyed because I kept saying I work out.
Were you doing like one step and then?
That's what it felt like. Yes.
Were you screaming between each one like that?
No,
no.
But that's what it felt like, and I was very annoyed.
Yeah. Were you going up a step and then setting everything down to rest, and then picking it up and going up the next?
I was
step?
trying not to because that makes you more tired.
And it makes you look weak too.
And I am not weak.
Yep. See, I think that's what they should have better help for. You could call them and say, "Can you help me carry this up the stairs, please?"
I'm sure they do. They have an app for everything now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us all. What am I saying? Let us know all of your opinions on this topic.
I really am going to be interested to hear people's opinions. I'm really curious about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Yep.
Another day, another dollar.
If somebody wants, they can call and we can see if we can help them.
Please don't call us.
But we won't answer. So
we'll go to voicemail.
So yeah, we are not that 1-800 line, that if you expect to get an answer right away.
But I will tell you our number right now while you're
good.
While you're waiting. if I can find it. No, I think I deleted
I'm
it.
surprised we don't have this memorized by now.
Oh, here it is.
Mhm.
407-584-7543. That will be in the show notes as well. But you can.
What's the number again?
I'm not reading it again. I just read it. It's in the show notes. You can text that number or you can call and leave a voicemail for a chance to be played on the show.
Right.
And by a chance, I mean there's a 100% chance you'll be played
Unless you use
request not to.
profanity or unless you say anything
I will just
that
bleep
could
it
even
out.
be construed in any way as negative about this podcast.
All right. We'll see you on Friday.
Goodbye.
Have a great week, everyone.
Goodbye. Oh,
Perhaps.
I muted and then unmuted and then cleared my throat.
Did you test the microphones before all of this?
That's a great question. I mean, they're both green.
That means very little.
Let's see. I think it's working.
Mute yours.
No, I'm not going to do it now.
Why?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Is mine moving? Well, obviously you're muted.
Okay.
Here, let me mute.
Yeah. Go ahead, say something. What's the point? Okay, it's fine.
The dumbest show.
The level seems a little low to me in general, but that's for both microphones, so. Go ahead, they're working. Come on, let's keep going. I have a dentist appointment.
Okay, I have a dentist appointment. Okay.